How did two Texas high school engineering teachers help their schools win thousands of dollars worth of electronics these last few years? Listen to it next on the K-12 Engineering Education Podcast. I'm Pius Wong in Austin, Texas. The new school year is starting again, and so is a design competition for K-12 called Solve for Tomorrow from Samsung. To learn more about it, I got on a call with Autumn Dowdy and George Dowdy, two teachers at Porter High School here in Texas, whose students have been winning in Solve for Tomorrow for the past years. I also got to speak to Ann Wu, an executive at Samsung, who could explain more about the design competition. Thanks for joining me, George, Autumn, and Ann. Since we have three of you, maybe I'll start with George and Autumn. And I'll start with you because I know that you're in the trenches teaching engineering to students. And so, could you introduce yourselves and where you're at?
I'm George Dowdy. I teach engineering at Porter High School, which is in New Caney, IC on the northeast side of Houston. And I teach engineering design development, aerospace engineering, robotics, manufacturing, and then our practicum of STEM class. And then teaching with me, I'm lucky enough to have is my wife, Autumn Dowdy.
Hi, I'm Autumn Dowdy. I teach across the hall in the same engineering department. So I teach the freshman engineering design, and then I teach digital electronics and AC/DC electronics and manufacturing engineering to the upperclassmen.
Cool. Welcome, George and Autumn.
Thanks.
And Ann, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
My pleasure. I'm Ann Wu. I'm Senior Director of Corporate Citizenship at Samsung Electronics America, and we run the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition.
Thanks. I'll start with you, George. I know that you teach students who very recently got pretty high up in this competition, Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition. Could you tell me how you got into engineering education and how you found out about this contest?
I got into engineering. Well, first I taught AP Physics for a long time for the district. And I was always most of the engineering projects they did down here is something I kind of already did in my spare time. And it's kind of hobbies that I would already do. So I helped out a lot. And I really ended up switching to engineering because my wife, Autumn, she came here to teach engineering before I did. So when she got down here, I said, well, I'm leaving physics. I'm going to join the engineering department. And she's the one that got me into this Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition because she did it first at our school. And then I took over the team on this last year. But we've had a great time working with these kids and all of this throughout the competition. It's just such a great opportunity for them.
Cool. Yeah, Autumn, can you tell me about how you found out about it first?
Sure. On Facebook, I'm in a group called PLTW Teachers, and that's the curriculum we use that our district purchases, Project Lead the Way. And so it really was just a teacher group that I'm in, and a teacher just made an offhand post. It was like, hey, I did this contest this year. You guys should do it. We only made it one level, but we got $15,000 of technology for our classroom. And as, a teacher who had only been teaching a few years that came from industry, that's the one thing I saw that I was surprised at in classrooms was kind of the lack of the absolute, kind of newest technology. Like even some of the vendors, they didn't sell a lot of the newer things. And I thought, well, this is great. Instead of a trophy, this contest is going to give us actual technology for the classroom to kind of fill in those gaps. And so when I clicked on the link that the teacher had posted, though, it was due in 2 days. And so we really didn't have a lot of brainstorming time, but my Girls Who Code group was meeting after school that day. And so we stayed after school and brainstormed a couple of hours and filled out the application, and, lucky enough we're to advance and got some funding to get some technology for the classroom. And I was hooked because it's such a great program because it's not specific. Any school can participate, any school can do it. And so that's what I loved about it. And so, we've been participating ever since.
And it's cool that you have that industry perspective because not every teacher has that perspective. So I'm glad that you bring that enthusiasm to your students as well. And I have to go to Ann, of course. I guess you and Samsung are the originator of Solve for Tomorrow and these other engineering education programs. Ann, could you tell me what your background is before we get into Solve for Tomorrow?
Sure. So I've been at Samsung Electronics America for longer than I'd like to admit. I've had several jobs in the company, several positions, but we had the opportunity to really start to think about in markets all across the world programs that really connected with who we were as an organization, combined with where there were gaps that we could fill.
Hmm.
And so, in thinking that we are a tech company who really benefits from the experts in STEM, we thought we'd start Samsung Solve for Tomorrow in a way that allowed us to make a difference and really complement what schools were doing already. And so, this is a great program that takes my personal passion for giving back and support an effort within the company that's really trying to make a difference in changing the conversation around STEM.
Hmm. Was this something y'all were thinking about for a while?
Sure. So Samsung Solve for Tomorrow actually started back in 2010. So back in 2010, if we sort of rewind a bit, that's when the YouTube generation was really starting to form as a medium where students wanted to be, where they were learning and sharing information. So we wanted to come up with a program that sort of lifted students' heads out of textbooks in a way they wanted to learn and partner. So we wanted to do something different around STEM. Solve for Tomorrow is a bit different in that while we do have a STEM competition inviting middle and high school students to think about STEM, what we wanted to do is take it from a different angle. And so we thought about really, rather than Samsung thinking about a specific topic and having classrooms answer it, we actually took a different spin, which was for classrooms to tell us about a local community issue that they had. And we would recognize and reward classrooms that really applied STEM to come up with the solution. And so the beauty of this idea is that we've been able to see lots of different ideas every year, including the ideas from Porter High School, to really tell us what is top of mind for these students in classrooms around the country. And to be honest, the ideas are much better than anything I or my team or the company could come up with, because it takes the creativity and the understanding of what middle and high schools are thinking, combined with what's going on in communities, both rural, suburban, and urban, to really call attention to issues they care about.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. That's a perfect chance to go into some examples of that. And so, Autumn and George, I'll go put it back to you. I guess, Autumn, since you were the first one to hear about it at Porter High School, can you first tell me about Porter High School? What's that community like? And what kinds of problems were your students interested in solving?
Yeah, sure. Well, since the first team that I used was just that Girls Who Code team after school, the project that the topic, I should say, they decided to go on was sex trafficking. And it was something that no one on the team nor myself really had any knowledge about, other than, seeing something on the news. And so it was just a great opportunity to learn about something we didn't know anything about. And how we chose the topic was, what I like about Samsung's question is it's your school community. Well, we started talking about just what are, some problems the students have, and just brainstorming. And one of the students in another class had talked about the fact that they had kind of did a bust about 5 miles from our school. And there were actually some teenagers that were being sex trafficked on this bus. And they were all shocked. It wasn't anything we had any idea that was around us. And so they just saw it as a really great way to kind of let the community know, signs like, what can we do? How can we help this problem that we kind of didn't know existed? So it was great to just meet with undercover cops in our area, things that I would never have ever thought I would be doing as a teacher. And since it's your own area, you're not necessarily across the nation looking for resources, although you may find industry specialists in other places. Like, it really was just about our community and finding out more about it. And our community itself got to learn with us. And then that actually spurred some other community projects from some of the other different things in our school. Like, for instance, cosmetology. The next year, they did their entire service project on sex trafficking, and helping like our community and all the schools, making posters and things to just kind of like, here's signs and symptoms, here's where you can reach out for help, here's assistance. So it brought more things into the community way beyond the contest, which has happened every year, that you just don't know where that ripple is going to go. But that was our first project, and it ended up being something that, as an all-girl team, it kind of fit. And so had Samsung had a specific question, it may not have, evolved into something they were so passionate about. Last year, I should say the year before last, when the pandemic hit, our project ended up being about something with the pandemic. And again, it was something that a teacher in our school had, her husband was like getting some advanced dementia and getting some problems that he had home health coming regularly. But when the pandemic hit and he could no longer get those resources at home, he was going to have to go into an assisted living program for his health. But she knew that if he went in there, she would no longer get to see him, that it was going to have to be through FaceTime and things, which he really wasn't capable of doing. So from just having that happen out of nowhere and, talking about it with her students, they became really passionate about, well, what's happening with all these people in these assisted living with them not having their families available. So that kind of stemmed our project. And that's what I love about it is like every year it's stuff the students are having happen to them or around them that they get to focus on. And that lets them become passionate about it and really make a difference, rather than some of the other competitions we do, such as our robotics. Mm-hmm. We'll have a day that the first day that the competition opens, that's when we get to see the field. That's when we get the rules of the year. And it's very, focused. It may be medical, it may be this, we don't know. And, we just have to kind of hit the ground running. Whereas this, we decide what we want to put all our passion in for the year. And then I'll let George talk about the one they did last year.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the one we did last year, it was another event that just directly impacted the kids. And it was very impactful, very startling for all of them, because we had our very first dance that they've had in years because of COVID. The first thing back in person, our homecoming dance. And it was a great night for everybody because we're all finally back together. And that's when rumors started that there was a gun on campus. There was going to be a shooting. And finally, by the end, we had a big balloon drop at that. And kids got some of the balloons, started popping them. So there were gunshots and the whole student body panicked. And everybody rushed out the buildings to every exit. I mean, kids got knocked down and trampled. And, after they're all out, there's just cell phones and shoes and purses littering everything. So it was really traumatic for all the kids. So they really wanted to focus on finding a way to prevent that panic. And so we made a system on gunshot detections. So we set up a mesh network of microcontrollers that would detect a gunshot anywhere in the school and show you a safe evacuation path out. But more importantly, that was really to prevent those panics, because if they knew our system isn't being set off, then whatever it was is probably a false alarm.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks, George and Autumn, for giving some details about that. To me, that seems really heavy stuff. And I'm very naive about teaching high school students because I don't do that. I teach older folks. So as someone who doesn't know how to do that, do you face challenges approaching these sometimes heavy topics that students want to tackle?
The students want to tackle these topics. Like, they are not interested in what, I don't know, they might call, I wouldn't say busy work, but like we're really raising change makers. Like, these kids, they think anything is possible, and the last thing we want to do is stamp that out. When they have bigger ideas than this, they were determined to go to space this year. Okay. Like, that was the goal. So for us to just kind of get them down, to realistic level is good, but it's like, you want them to dream big, but then like getting to actually take an idea way past just brainstorming gets them into like the actual trenches. Like, who can we find out more about this from, and if someone just says, yeah, that a part of the idea totally won't work, a professional, then they have to pivot. It's not like just where you turn in an assignment and then it's over and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that I should have changed that. No, it's like, okay, now we have to change it and keep going. And so just kind of finishing out these projects, whether you advance or not in this contest, is important, because they get so much growth from having to go to the end of this. And then they have to make a 3-minute video telling everything. So after they've put in hours and hours and talked to all of these people, they have to narrow it down. What is the actual meat? Like, what's important? It can't just be something you like about it. Like, what's the need to know? That Samsung has a rubric. It's great for the kids to see. Here is the end goal, that you have to make that fit into. So there's just for us as engineering teachers, it fits the engineering process perfectly because you're always iterating. You're always coming up with, nothing's ever finished. You can always make something better. And it's so much better than just turn in the assignment and then it's done. Like, they get to, see that entire process, keep circling rather than just get to the end, present that presentation in class. Now let's move on to chapter 2.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You remind me of one of the things I was wondering. You talked about how you're certified teaching Project Lead the Way, which is, a very big, common engineering program. It has lots of benefits, but I always wonder, for other engineering programs, how do they complement each other? And it sounds like you're saying this Solve for Tomorrow competition, for example, it teaches your students a different thing. I guess you let them iterate on the design process, do something they're more personally connected to. Is that an accurate interpretation?
It is. I mean, me personally as a teacher, I don't want to see the same, design from every student. So I push them to be creative from literally day one of freshman year. We start brainstorming right out of the box. They're always startled. They think we're just going to look at the syllabus and then hang out. And then I'm like, okay, here you go, get into groups. And they're like, wait, what? So we start right off. And I want them to think outside the box. And that's really something that people think that everyone can just brainstorm, but it's something you have to work on. It's a skill. No one is a great brainstormer right off the bat. And so learning different ways to brainstorm individually as a group. If you get paired with certain types of people, a lot of introverts, what are some better skills at brainstorming with that type of group versus a bunch of loud extroverts? How do you pare that down? There's a lot of rules to brainstorming and strategies. And so those are going to help the students in life, whether they become engineers. It's going to help them in science when they're in a group. It's going to help them in English. So it's really something that, like, as a person, being able to brainstorm and, narrow things down and have constraints is something that we try to have them do regardless. So with Project Lead the Way, there are specific projects, but I mean, any Project Lead the Way teacher is not going to do all of them exactly, as they come. It's just a guideline, it's a base for a new teacher. It's fantastic. You have a lot of great curriculum, but every year you change those things up, and make better. That's what's so awesome about this profession is we get to take every year summer to digest, think about what we want to make better, what we want to take out, add to.
Yeah, and I would add to that, just Project Lead the Way. It's a good curriculum. It really gives them a lot of the knowledge and skills necessary, to work with the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition. But the thing about the Solve for Tomorrow competition, it just gives them a chance to bring those knowledge and skills to life, to really apply them and make a real world difference and show these kids they really are little engineers and they are making a difference in their school community and in the wider community as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And Anne, I'll go back to you. Now that I've heard some more recent examples of your competition participants, do you find that that's the trend ever since 2010? It really just taps into what students are passionate about?
Oh, absolutely. We know that this generation and the generation even before, because we've had 12 years of the program, really have a passion to change the world. They definitely see it as their responsibility to improve and iterate and really not wait for others to do it, but take it upon themselves to make that change a reality. And we love Solve for Tomorrow because it ignites that passion that the younger generation has, combined with the skills that you need to get it to make change happen. And so there's anything from the STEM skills that you need to, as Autumn referenced, making a presentation, really having a concise way to pitch your idea. We have students at some phase of the program virtually, and now this past year in person again, to be able to pitch in front of a live judging panel to convince them that it is technically viable, but it makes a difference. And so all of these experiences we think are so important in both igniting and bringing that passion for change to life, but also giving them the toolkit to make that happen, to think about STEM not as a an area of discipline, but it is the tools to create things that change the world. And we love that combination of these various skill sets. And again, for many of these students to see an idea become a solution, there's just that passion and that evolution and that growth we see in students, with a better sense of empathy that they had even in the beginning of the program, when we were thinking about which idea they would want to invest their time in. It's just amazing for us to watch it year after year after year. And so, the other aspect of the program that we really think is unique and that we love is this is not an individual student competition. This is a classroom competition or a team competition. And we think that it's so important because we see students who become engineers in the future, but we also have folks who are great public speakers or become social activists in the world. And we really try and bring that understanding that change happens as a group, right? You can be really good at something, but if you want change to happen, you have to bring others with you as part of that change-making group or cohort. And, bringing everyone's expertise together to collectively make a difference is how the world actually works. And that passion that we're able to ignite and, to be a catalyst as part of that, their growth is just one of the things we are so proud of and really humbled by year after year as sort of administrators of this contest.
That's cool. And I get a sense as you speak, as all of you speak, about your rubric, about the things that are the most important. Can you give me a couple more examples of some of your winners, like the teams that have created or worked together so well, they've created something that you had to reward? Like, what are some of the other cool things that students have done?
Sure. So we've seen a lot of entries in the past couple of years, really around school safety, and I think the Porter High School most recent win around active shooters and threat situations. Yeah. Those things are really real across the country. Yeah. Different solutions to the same problem, but something that students really think about very deeply as it relates to how to stay safe in the classroom. And that's an unfortunate fairly recent occurrence, but mental health and wellness, how to support students when they're, going through hard times. During the pandemic, mental health for students really became a big topic for them, and integrating a sense of empathy to help and reach out to those that may need it, both those who are vocal, but those who are silent and don't know how to solve for it. We've seen a lot of accessibility solutions over time to actually bring inclusion into a lot of the conversation in ways that they're not waiting for the school system or novel ideas to come and then use it. They're making them. And so because they want to bring more students into the conversation and have a much more welcoming environment. So those are the types of projects that really wow us over time. And really you can see one topic, which is the challenge that we give of solve a problem in your community using STEM, has so many applications. And really we're so impressed by the creativity, the ingenuity, but actually the applied skill to make it an idea become a solution has been just fascinating for us.
Yeah. And it's interesting that I know Samsung, a lot of us know Samsung as an electronics company, but the problems that you're talking about that students are solving and the winners that you're talking about, they're not necessarily just electronics problems. They're much, much bigger.
Oh,
and I guess
certainly.
That's intentional. Yeah.
Yes. And even when we think about product design and we're thinking about creating, we're really looking at issues-based, like unmet needs of consumers. And the same applies in Samsung Solve for Tomorrow. There is a need in society or in their community that needs to be solved for. And, they're following a very similar process of the engineering design and really iterating on it, which is what we do in tech today.
And so it brings me back to something I'm wondering about schools. So I'll pivot again to George and Autumn. But do you find that there are differences in what kind of support you want as a teacher versus what you have? Like, I'm trying to find out if there's support you're looking for from the community, from companies like Samsung, from other folks, from government that you don't have yet, teaching engineering, teaching STEM?
Yeah, I mean, definitely teaching STEM. I mean, one of the problems that we have in most schools is we just don't have the budget or the ability to get a lot of the technology that we want. And so that's just been this great opportunity being here in the Solve for Tomorrow competition, because our students being national winners for the last 2 years in a row, all the technology that we got from Samsung has really changed and gotten such a bigger opportunity in our classrooms. It's really kind of revolutionized our classes and caught up to that.
We have a lot of low income students, and we have a lot of students that don't have internet at home. They don't have PCs at home. So when we get different software and engineering that, it's an exe file, well, they can't do that on their Chromebooks. We're lucky to have been a one-to-one school for years before the pandemic. So it wasn't a big change for our students. We had a great learning management system pre-COVID. We didn't have to pivot on that much. So our students are definitely, our district is very forward thinking when it comes to technology, but our families are still the same income, regardless of what the school can do while they're at school. And so what our technology has allowed us to do is have things the students can check out and take home. One student may have a super fancy gaming computer, but the next has no internet. So allowing them to be able to have things that if they're working on a project or they, and to use for other, it's not just in engineering. If they're working on something for their animation class or English or something like that, it's given us so many more resources to just be able to share. When we were in the pandemic, Samsung sent all of these microphones and backdrops and things for us to, prepare. That's been a great resource just to send, to other departments when their kids are having to do college interviews, even just things like that. It's, letting them see other resources that are out there. And the school has to have certain rules with everything that the school owns and pays for. But this, we're able to find a lot cheaper options through different vendors to give the students just a lot more hands-on and different things that they can utilize, regardless of their income or family or situation.
And then if I could add, we spend a lot of time, even outside of the contest period, really talking to teachers to get a better understanding of what classrooms need and what companies like Samsung can do. Especially during the pandemic, we reached out to so many teachers to understand the current situation in the classrooms and where we could have an impact. One of the more surprising things for us was they wanted us to do the competition. We had concerns if there was bandwidth, given all of the pressures to teach in a virtual setting. And we were really, surprised that many teachers told us to please do it, because the classrooms, the students especially, needed something to look forward to, and progressing in the contest was one of those things that we thought of. We've also created a lot of programs like our Samsung Teacher Academy to really celebrate, Autumn and George are perfect examples that we call hand raiser teachers. They, both of them, in just speaking during this podcast, has talked about how they go above and beyond what they have in the classroom, sort of the syllabus there, to do more. And we wanted to capture that energy and to be able to share it with others. So we've created programs like Teacher Academy to teach things like problem-based learning, and with the idea that they are able to then share it with other teachers and sort of cultivate a bigger community of hand raisers with the right tools, like what Samsung Solve for Tomorrow has, like what Project Lead the Way has, like MindSpark Learning, and a lot of other key players in the education industry, to provide them the tools so that others could do more. And we really celebrate student alumni from the program. We're so proud of just their how they've been able to shine in the competition. We love to take them to conferences. We take them to our developers conference, to the Consumer Electronics Show, both for them to have the experience. But we're so proud of these students that we like to show them off as well to others in the industry, and really try and make those connections as much as possible. So while this is a competition that has a start and an end date, we really think about it as a relationship and sort of a responsibility we have as a company to help drive passion for STEM, help support classrooms, and start a conversation about how STEM is one of the tools in the toolkit to really ignite a passion in students in a different way, in a complementary way to what these amazing teachers are doing throughout the school year and more.
Yeah, no, those are all great ideas for more support. And I definitely want to talk more about the Teacher Academy and your professional development programs. But I also wanted to ask you something that's on my mind. Since Samsung kind of has a bigger picture talking to other educators, what do educators need now that we're in this different mode of the pandemic? It's not done, but we're coming back into classrooms and everything. Do you find that teachers are requesting different kinds of things, or is there anything that the public should know that educators are telling you that they need?
Definitely. Again, we're always listening to teachers and asking them what we could do better. A lot of it has been to create moments of excitement. And that's kind of a broad term. But one of the things that we did earlier this year, back in April, that we hadn't done in 2 years was do a live pitch event with our national finalist for the competition. For 2 years, we had done it virtually. It was the right thing to do at the time. But there is something magical about bringing students to represent their school and their community together. We flew out 10 schools, students and teachers to come to our Samsung 837, which is this great experiential place we have in New York City. And they got to meet other students, other teachers, hear other projects that classrooms in states across the country were thinking about. And having that experience to show pride for their work, pride for their school and community, and to have an experience that might be a little hard for a school to provide, that creates an energy as a result of it, is one of those little things that Samsung does, but brings this additional sense of passion around their community, a lot of energy around their STEM programs, and just an opportunity to meet others who have a common interest are things that we've brought back because we felt it was so important to bring something that a company can do that might be hard for a school to.
And George, I wanted to ask you, I understand that you went with your students to New York. Are you one of the teachers who brought their students to that event? Or
Yeah, we were so excited that the pitch event was in person again, because our students did participate the year before in one of the virtual ones. It was a fantastic experience, but to have them really go to New York was awesome for them. They built such good relationships with some of the other students in these other schools. The relationships they built, hearing these different viewpoints and seeing how it is around the country, it was really neat experience for them. And Samsung just gave them all kinds of fun opportunities. They spent so much time touring New York, and it was great as an educator to talk to all the other educators around the country, and have these common bonds, and someone you can bounce ideas off and talk to throughout the year. And the Teacher Academy that we went to that this summer, and Autumn went to that one also, and that was fantastic to get to work with all the other teachers. They're kind of like-minded teachers like this, but then they teach in very different situations around the country, so you see all these new viewpoints.
Yeah, let's talk about that, the Teacher Academy. So I'll go back to Anne real quick. Can you summarize again that program? How do teachers do that and get involved in that?
Sure. So we had professional development training here in New York in July. We had around 35 students come, completely hosted by Samsung, with a agency partner, MindSpark Learning, to really, again, celebrate like-minded teachers, have them collaborate and build their own community of educators who they are all Solve for Tomorrow participants in the program. But then we have them do hands-on training. They were able to, as one of the activities, really think about an important topic as if they were a student. We talked about food insecurity this year, which is such a relevant topic. And we hear about food deserts, and there are parts of New York City that's a food desert, and having fresh fruits and vegetables available to them. And so by going through a week-long exercise of listening to nonprofit partners, visiting farms, urban farms in the city, and really having that first-person experience with, again, those like-minded hand raiser teachers is really one of those experiences that we are so honored to provide to teachers. And, we know that many students benefit from a passionate teacher who, got a little bit of an energy boost from being part of Teacher Academy.
So do you find people and select them, or do teachers apply to that? How does that work?
Sure. So the Teacher Academy participants are teachers who've been part of Samsung Solve for Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're interested in Teacher Academy, apply to Solve for Tomorrow, and then
Nice.
you can have a chance to be part of this week-long program as well.
And they can win potentially lots of technology for their students as well. So
yes, it's part of the contest. It does help. We have a $2 million prize pool of technology and classroom supplies that we put up every year. And so it's a great way to pique interest. But, there are so many things that we get to do afterwards once we get to know teachers and students in classrooms along the way.
Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity. And it reminds me of something I wanted to ask you, Autumn. Now that we're talking about how corporations like Samsung view STEM education, engineering education, and I know that you have a background in industry and as well as in this academic engineering arena, are there differences in how these different fields view engineering education? Do you feel like these little areas or these types of institutions could learn from each other, or do you feel like they're all pretty consistent in how they're approaching engineering and engineering education?
No, we have industry people come in to give, talks and things with the students, and they are always blown away by what, our school has, as opportunities for our students. And we are by no means anything like some of the schools we've been into. Some schools, it's amazing what resources the high schoolers have. And I think if more industry realized how serious that school districts are taking STEM and are taking, industry professions and really trying to incorporate that. I'm the department chair for our school for career and technology, and we have 21 pathways at our school. And we're not alone in that. School districts across the U.S. are really focused on career and tech, helping these students be so much more prepared than we were at 18. I mean, we had, just a handful of electives we could take. These students now are getting industry certifications by the time they're 18. And, that's really what we try to show the businesses in our area is this is what the kids are doing. Like they're doing this as freshmen and sophomore. And so it's such a great way for them to just go right into the workforce if they need to. College is, of course, an option. Military is an option. There's so many options. But if more companies did things like the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow program, it would really open up just even more doors for schools across the U.S. The only other company that even has anything that I know of in our area that I found is an oil company, and it's a one day, it's a very simple, you don't do anything beforehand, it's just an opportunity. It's just, one of those type things. So it's nothing at all like this. And it's also that, sometimes the teacher starts at a district, they just know what the teacher before them did. So that's what's important about kind of getting the word out about what Samsung does is that it doesn't have to be an engineering teacher. We're both engineering teachers, so we love it. But at the Teacher Academy, we met PE teachers, English teachers, science teachers, band directors. Like anyone can participate in this because it's not specific. It doesn't say you have to 3D print and laser cut, this certain thing. It's anything that you want to do. And so it's so open, and not all contests are that way. And they also sometimes don't really have a reward. And so by having it be something that the teachers get something out of it, the students get something out, all the stakeholders are taken care of, they're really kind of at the forefront of what other big companies should be looking at, because there are different tools and things in the schools across America that the students can really utilize to change their community.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what did the band director do? What did their students do for their project, if you remember.
Yeah, she said that they used a Raspberry Pi, and basically it was a program that they kind of utilized to be able to play music with other people during the pandemic when everyone was
Oh, wow.
quarantined. So you could
Yeah. Oh,
play music together, because she had to find something for her band students to be able to do from home. Um, so yeah, we were just surprised and so excited because it was something George and I hadn't thought about. We tell other engineering teachers, and that's kind of really where we were trying to spread the word. But coming back, we were like, we need to be looking for any hand raising teachers. So, I mean, I've talked to the other department chairs, like, hey, maybe science wants to try something, English, history, like anyone can do this. And so that kind of, it just to me makes it even more open. It's STEM, but you don't have to be a STEM teacher to do it.
mhm.
Everyone in the world uses STEM.
You brought up a good point, Autumn. It kind of reminds me of what I was asking earlier. Locally here in Austin, I've spoken to a lot of teachers who tell me that it's hard to get companies oftentimes to support the K-12 level of education. It's more geared towards college because, maybe they'll get workers or something. And I guess this is kind of to Anne as well as to George and Autumn, but why, I guess, are corporations like Samsung behaving more uniquely? Like you're investing, it sounds like, in K-12 rather than just, adults. Why is that? What makes that a priority for your business?
So at Samsung, we think it's really important to invest in the young generation early. You can only know what options you have if you're exposed to it, and in certain communities, like with young female students, that's certainly the case. And so we are invested in making sure that we as a company support as early as possible the conversations about career paths and subjects that maybe they don't think is for them. And that has certainly a ripple effect when you're thinking about what subjects you like in school, to where you might go to college and what you might study there, to what career path that you'll take.
Mm.
And there are so many moments in time when we've met people who said, if I would do it over again, I would go into this field or that field. And, we just want to create moments where there are fewer speed bumps or new conversations that we can have. And that includes bringing Samsung professionals to these schools and having conversations, or just experiences where they're seeing how STEM is applied in real ways. And that for us is really important. It starts early. It starts maybe, not on the technical side, but really in
Mhm.
storytelling. And, if you want to see change happen that you care about, these are the ways you can do it. And having those moments of opportunities that they might not otherwise have gotten, we know, and I know so many teachers do know, that the earlier that you're able to create that exposure and invite more students along the way, the greater
Yeah.
impact it is in the long term.
So how would you convince, say, like if you weren't at Samsung, if you were at any of these other big tech companies that I live among, if you had to convince those businesses to invest in elementary, high school education, like what's the business case, I guess, for doing that? I know what the educational case is.
Sure. I think companies have a great responsibility to be able to change conversations. And we are the practical users of STEM. I mean, Samsung could not exist without STEM professionals, and so many students. I think the point was brought up earlier. Everyone uses technology today. To peeling the layer back and saying it's the technology that everyone loves is made by people who know how to do this. And to be able to do that, we have to build pathways. We are building career pathways, just like companies that invest in college and graduate students do. We are building it early because we believe it's important. We believe that it is eventually going to create broader and wider and deeper pathways for students. And the investment early, just like you invest in R&D, the investment early in creating a generation of young people who not just like tech, but know how to create it and use it for its maximum potential, will reap the return, as much as any other investment you make in R&D.
It sounds like we got to have an eye for the longer term.
Absolutely.
So I do want to go back to asking George and Autumn about what your plans are for this next academic year that's starting real soon. Are you going to do anything differently in your engineering, robotics, technology classes?
Yeah. Ours starts real soon. We start on Monday.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our problem always is really time for here. We try to keep these kids very involved and in all sorts of competitions along with Samsung, so we can really get them those real world skills that they develop. So we really need to hit the ground running. We're going to try and just do even better on the time this year, and and you got to really work hard to find something they're passionate about. Like getting them to work on a long-term project is a challenge with certain kids. I mean, that's what's great about the Samsung one, because they personally, they came up with that problem and they're very invested in it, and they see the changes it makes around them in their community. And I teach a class called Engineering Design Development. It's our capstone class here, and it's another class like that gives them that an opportunity to do that. They have the whole year. They come up with their own personal thing that they're going to develop, and that is what they work on. It's very self-directed, but it's a challenge to get those kids to work that way and then find the right kids for that class. So we're just going to work more. I don't know. Every year I try to just really find ways to bring education to life, to really get them to buy in and want to be a part of what they're working on in these classes. So that's what I'm planning on.
Well, one thing in the Teacher Academy, several of the teachers had great ideas about how to get panelists. They regularly do this in their schools. Some of their schools are lucky enough to have STEM coordinators that find these panelists. We're going to have to do that legwork on our own because of the way our district is set up. But it's something that George and I and the other engineering teacher in our department really want to start bringing in for our kids. And basically, if your team if you had a team, it doesn't have to be the Samsung team, but like in your class, like what George is talking about, if one student's working on something for the environment and another student is working on something. I try to push girls into the program, and, I try to mention different things like, well, chemical engineers, the makeup industry is $1 billion industry. Like it's, something that, I think more females will be going into. And so last year, a girl was making a makeup brush cleaner, so finding actual industry professionals related to that. If they're redoing, what was it? There's been so many different projects over the years that they do in that class, but it's been hard for us in the past to try to just get a few people to come in and listen to their pitch. But we got so many great techniques and ways to find those actual specific people that can really give them feedback specific to that, project that they're working on. And that's one thing we want to do to help kind of get more buy-in from the students, is that they know that people related to what they're going to work on at the end of the semester or the end of the year are going to come listen and hear all of the work that they did on it. And so I think that that's really going to just help our program and help the students, so that they kind of see it as different than just a class assignment. They see it as, something that industry professional may be really excited about that idea, and it may turn into a mentor situation. You never know. Everything creates ripples. That's what I've learned in education, is it may be just one student's mind you change, but you don't know what that student's then going to go do. So, every year we're excited at the beginning of the year because we get to try new things, make things better. But engineering is an interesting thing to teach, because just because you like to use technology doesn't mean you like to create new things. It's like the difference between scientists and engineers. It's a very exciting time in a student's life, because they don't all know what they want to do. They're very malleable. So I love teaching freshmen, because I get to really kind of get a feel for them and see what they're interested in and kind of help guide them. And so by the time they get to be seniors, we really want that class to be where they have figured out something along the way that they're passionate about. And then they just get that year to just really focus on that personal item to them and try to get it patented, and to know that we're gaining skills to get more professionals along the way and at the end for them. I think that that's exciting, and it will really make them look forward to that opportunity more.
Yeah, I agree that this does sound really exciting. And I've noticed that we've all been using the word time a lot. You're giving students more time to explore things, that teachers need more time. And I want to know about that. How can we make time, or how can we give teachers more time to do all these cool things? Because I'm sure the Solve for Tomorrow competition might take a little more time. Like, what are some strategies for doing all these things we want to do?
Well, one thing really, I don't know, like so much gets put on you as a teacher, and then there is so much going on for the students and for us, and really everyone that's involved in pretty much anything in life. Time's always a problem. So, really teaching them skills to be more efficient with their time is just a big thing. Whatever we can find a way to make them understand how valuable the time is and how to be efficient with it. And another kind of problem you run into as teachers now is that over the course of the pandemic, there was a lot more grace, a lot less deadlines for things. And so you have a few years of students that went through school like that, that they don't really see deadlines as a hard date. But certain things like the Solve for Tomorrow contest, it teaches them that. Like that video is due at midnight on a certain date, and we cannot miss that. So it's been good for them to see that some things in life there's a deadline, and you have to meet it.
In the remaining time that we do have, I do want to know more about your future plans. I'm glad that George and Autumn, you told me about your upcoming school year. That's exciting. And is there anything you can share from Samsung's point of view of what y'all are going to do in education and what your goals are?
Sure. So because we are so devoted to the space of education and young people, a lot of our work follows the school year, just like it does for teachers and students. So we have a great lineup of programs that we will be introducing in the fall, including the 13th year of Samsung Solve for Tomorrow. So we're so proud to be able to launch this contest again. Very similar setup. Can't wait to hear about the new ideas that a new class of applicants will bring to the table. The contest gets better and better because the ideas of students get better and better. So it's one of those things that we can't wait to come. And so entries will start coming in on September, and we'll start the contest again. We have a couple of new programs that we're launching as well, including some training in artificial intelligence and other cooler curriculums that I think will interest young people because it's hot. It's the topics of today, and we want to make sure as many young people as possible have access to curriculum that might otherwise be difficult for them to get in the classroom. So more to come on new programs. And, we're always constantly looking and listening and trying to do better for our young people today with schools. So, more to come in the coming months. But first off is Samsung Solve for Tomorrow in September.
Cool. How do we find out more about it? Do we just Google it, or is there like a special, I don't know, Twitter feed or something that we follow?
Entries for the competition, again, will open in September. It's www.samsung.com/solve for tomorrow or a Samsung Solve, where you'll be able to learn more about the competition. We are always thinking about ways in this coming year, as we did last year, on sustainable solutions. So, we're trying to be creative in continually thinking about sustainability in practical ways, like, how do you make a sustainable solution that solves a problem in your community? So we're excited to add more of that angle to our contest this year, as we have done in the past. So we're, again, excited to have more programs that connect STEM education and students in the fall. And, I'm sure Porter High School will have several entries that we're looking forward to seeing. And we hope that many more schools participate as well.
Nice. So it's good to know you can apply more than once. And so, George and Autumn, I guess you got plans for doing that again this year?
Well, it's going to be based on the school community. So when the school starts next week, we'll start letting the kids advertise to see who'd like to be involved, and then they'll start brainstorming.
Yeah, we tend to just, we each kind of lead a team at the beginning of the year that brainstorms and start developing ideas, and we usually narrow it down and actually build the project. We try to make sure, everything we do, it really works and we really utilize it. And then both teams will do that, and then we narrow down from that one to the one.
Yeah. So, there's different teachers that kind of do it different ways. Some already had in mind what they, kind of wanted to work on, that they had talked to their community, and the community kind of provided some ideas for the problem. We may do that. We got a lot of great ideas from other teachers about how they have had success in the past and how they've, utilized the program. So it's definitely I think evolves for all the teachers involved with the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow also. When you meet other teachers and learn different ways of, trying and doing things, we've definitely been trying to spread the word, in our community about it. So I do hope that some of the middle schools in our area take advantage, because that really would be a great opportunity before they even get to high school, to kind of help them think about things they're interested in for their future.
That was Autumn Dowdy together with George Dowdy, both teachers at Porter High School in Texas, and Ann Wu, Senior Director of Corporate Citizenship at Samsung. Check the show notes for links to a lot of what we mentioned. All that and more cool stuff is also on the podcast website, k12engineering.net. The K-12 Engineering Education Podcast is produced by my indie studio, Pios Labs, in Austin, Texas. Pios Labs fosters growth in engineering and education through edtech, digital media, games, and professional development. Follow Pios Labs everywhere to stay updated. That's PIOSLABS. Listener, hey, I appreciate you. If you appreciate this episode, let me know. Leave a rating and a review for the show on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform that I am sure I am forgetting that you're using. Leave a rating now. Your review is really helpful for keeping this podcast up and running. Also, thank you to the friends and supporters of this podcast literally paying for it on Patreon. You can donate to the show too. Just go to patreon.com/PiosLabs. Good luck to everybody in the new school year. I'm sure there's going to be new challenges to handle, right? Let's go. We can do it.